What's up, guys, and welcome back to the garage. Today we've got a big one. We're going to be putting on the Firestone 2598 airbags. So these are them. Everything that you'll need is pretty much here. The kit with the bags comes with obviously the bags, the bracket mounting hardware, and all of the nuts and bolts that are on the bench. I've also purchased a Daystar Cradle. It's kind of like a really high density plastic, and the way they work, I guess the reason we need them is because I've got the Carly lift on the truck. It's not a body lift, it's a suspension lift, which added, I think it was 2 inches of travel in the rear. So these would be fine for a stock truck, but with the extra travel at full articulation, the bags would be pulled apart. If they were bolted to the top and bottom mount on the axle, top mount on the truck and bottom mount on the axle, they would be pulled apart at full articulation, or at the very least limit full articulation. So the way these cradles work is the bags are attached as usual at the top to the mounts. Instead of attaching the bag to the cradle gets bolted to the axle pad, and this guy will simply rest in it, and then at full articulation the cradle will drop away from the bag and allow the bag to pull away from it, not being stretched out, and come back into contact with it once the truck is out of full articulation. So I'll kind of bring you guys over to see this. So these are the bags. They're good for, there's a set here of torque recommendations for the install. These are good for, I believe, 5,000 pounds. It's just the 2598 bags. Get the part number there. There is one or two sort of issues with these plates, and you can see I've already got the wheel off. It does recommend you take your wheels off to make the install easier, and you can just get in here and clean up things if you want. But the two issues, first of which is this plate here that comes with the bag is meant to be secured around the axle with this 8-inch carriage bolt, and then there's going to be a plate that comes underneath, or sort of a mounting bracket that comes underneath the axle and grabs this carriage bolt. Well, the fitment issue I ran into was the rear brake line is a hard line, and this bolt runs right into it. It's not dropping down vertically, so that's a problem. Well, it would be for anybody who needs to install this pad. However, these trucks, being 2500s with the coil spring rear end, don't have the leaf springs, and they don't have sort of the typical mounting that you would normally see with these airbag kits. The other issue is that these Daystar cradles are supposed to normally bolt to these pads. However, the bolt to do so interferes completely with the way this lower mount is supposed to rest on the axle pad. So after some review, just sort of research in general, I've found that this is probably a little bit thin to tap into. Given the diameter of the bolt that it comes with, it's a 3/8, so you would need half the thickness of that to tap into this securely. I think that might just do it, given the thickness. I'm not sure what it is. I could get some calipers and take a look, but it's not too important because I don't plan on doing that. Anyway, this pad that comes with the truck, obviously it's welded to the axle, is what we're going to be laying the Daystar cradle on directly here, and then figuring out obviously where we need to put this pad to best accept the bag, having it mounted up here. And from that point we can then put the bag in, figure out where the cradle needs to be, mark that, and then what I plan on doing is simply drilling a hole for the bolt to go through. And I don't know if this is different on the 5th gen trucks, but I did see that people with 4th gens had no access into this area. This is certainly a hole big enough to allow me to put a nut through. So my plan is to simply drill a hole put the cradle and bolt through, and then get the nut on there and secure it down. Alright, so the first step in actually installing these bags is to remove the factory bump stop, and for me the Carly extension bracket. So I'm going to get these 2 bolts undone and then measure up the clearance once we're there. Alright, we've got the bump stop bracket off. I'm going to put the bracket in place that will hold the new bag. I went in here, wiped this down, and while I was at it, wiped the shock off. So I'm gonna go ahead and put you over on the side here and speed through putting the new bracket on. Okay, we've got the bracket on now. If you come under here, you'll see the back portion of the bracket. There's a greater distance between the bolt and the back of the bracket than there is on the front. It mentions this in the instruction manual, but you'll want to have the side of the bracket with a shorter distance between the front of the bracket and the bolt facing the front of the truck. So, next step, we'll move to the back and assemble the bag with the front bracket here, and then get the the elbow coupling for the air fitted as well. So I'll set you up while I put these together, and then I'll come back once I got that done. Okay, I thought I'd bring you back here after I got the elbow in. If you press on this bag now, you can feel the air leaving here of hitting this, so that's nice. Obviously, if you release it, it pushes springs back up. Air is being sucked in through here. In terms of how I fit this, I used my thread locker sealer, the same stuff I used when I was putting the compressor together. If you guys haven't seen that, I will link that video in the description below. I might throw a card up here. But the compressor, for all those who are interested, is mounted right up in here on the other side of that panel. So, back to this guy. Thread locker sealer, Teflon tape, finger tight, and then finish the rest of the round with the wrench, and keep it pointing the direction I tell you to, which is inward. So I'm going to go ahead and get this guy mounted up now. Fits on there just like this. This is going to be the taller side of the bracket, faces the outside of the truck. Going to be using these flange nuts. It's a 3/8 16 thread pitch flange nut. Tighten these down, and then we should be ready to go test fit on that bracket down there to figure out where the cradle is going to need to go. Okay, I've got started with the drilling here. There we go. So you can kind of see the hole. I just started with a pilot hole, a 3/32 bit for the pilot hole, just because getting the whole thing in here has been tough. I've been coming over from the backside. Without the pilot hole, it wasn't possible. You can obviously droop the axle. I'm already jacked up and supported under the axle. I didn't want to do that again, so if I can, it looks like I can install everything without drooping the axle, clearance-wise, getting the bag and the cradle in here. So what I'm going to do is continue drilling this out to clear this bolt from the cradle so it can go through here. I already just kind of set the airbag in here to make sure the cradle was aligned and I had clearance for this flexible hose and all that. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up this hole and then come back with you once I've got the cradle mounted. I've got the bracket put back and I have drilled this out. Used the step drill bit and put the cradle in. Now to put the bag back in, press it all the way down, start from behind, and then slide it forward, dropping it into the cradle. Bolt right in like that. Now, the trouble I ran into down here was getting the nut and washer underneath proved to be pretty impossible with the limited amount of space. So I put the bolt the bolt in underneath with a little string and pulled it through, and put the nut on through the top. The issue that I thought I might run into is that the bag would rub against the nut. Wasn't the case because these steel plates are sort of hitting halfway down the cradle, so we've got enough clearance for that there. So for the nut in the cradle to secure it in place without rubbing. Okay, so what we do next is to finish off the install, come through with these 3.5-inch bolts and line them up with the holes on the mounting bracket. Run them through. Get the flange nuts, get them on the other side, and tighten them down. Okay, that is the driver's side bag done. Everything is torqued down. The bag itself still slides on the bottom. You can see it there because it's simply sitting or resting in this cup. The cup simply keeps it from moving out. The cup will drop down, obviously, like I mentioned earlier, under full articulation, and then when coming back up, it will catch the bag, and the bag will then continue to act as a spring. So that's driver's side done. I'm going to go ahead and get the wheel and tire back on, and then get that torqued down, lower the jack, and then start on the other side. All right, wheel and tire is back on. You can see just behind there, we got the airbag in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do exactly the same thing I've just done, but on that side, and meet back with you once I'm done, and we will plumb the airlines. All right, it is the morning of day 2 on this project, and I've got the dog out here with me, as you can tell. We are going to run the airlines, get the bags plumbed today. I got the wheels and tires put back on. As you can see, got those torqued down this morning. I think it's between 130 and 140 foot-pounds on those guys for this truck. Anyway, I'm gonna hop under the truck, show you what I started running, and then show you what the plan will be for the rest of the day. Okay, up under the truck at the compressor now. I've got the vinyl tubing just kind of pushed in there, and you give it a tug, it stays in place. So that's how you know these are held. It's kind of like a barb. Backing out now. You can tell I've got the tubing run from the compressor over the frame. Well, it's into the bracket for the airline there for the bag. And right about, here, somewhere on the frame, I'm going to install this 3-way T-fitting. One way will go to the bag. This is the inlet here, and this other side will go to the back of the truck for a manual override fill valve. So we're going to put that in just in case the compressor breaks, or I need to, for whatever reason, inflate one of the bags that way. All right, guys, we are up in the cab. I have the passenger side bag plumbed, waiting on some more tubing, but we do have enough here to test the system now with the ARB pressure control module. See if it works, see if it controls everything as we want it to, see if it's responding timely. I know they said the volume of the bags wouldn't necessarily be big enough for the ARB PCM to work. They hadn't tested it with it, so let's find out if it works. Okay, so I've got the pressure control module on. It is currently set to pressure off by the default mode. I was playing around with this earlier. If we dump the pressure control, set this to 0. Okay, and we can see now that the pressure control module is dumping the pressure in the bag, and it is going to lower the back ride of the truck. Let's hop out and take a look at that and see it air back up. All right, we're in the back now. We've got the app here. We've got 0 PSI in the bags. And you can see the bag there, it is flat. Let's go ahead and set this now to 50. Hit OK. And you can see the bag fill back up. that the pressure control module here really does control this perfectly in terms of stopping at the small volume bag. And remember, this is only one bag, so stepping back, I think on camera we can see now that the right side is higher than the left, again, because I've only got one bag plumbed in. Go ahead and turn the control pressure off, close the solenoid in the PCM, put this controller away, access the second function of the compressor, open this valve. So what that did was pressurize the air line. Again, the bags are still inflated, nothing changed here, but we've got this air line pressurized, so we can now fill air toys, fill tires, whatever. The bags are in a system all their own. They're not going to be affected by this. I dump air here. The bag's not going to change. Again, if I dump air here, the bag's not changing. So let's go back over here. Shut this valve back off. There we go. The valve is off. Bleed the pressure from this line here. Disconnect it from the tube. So again, that is bag still full. There. And the Airbag pressure control module still at 50. If we take this up to 65, let's do 65. Up a little bit more. And again, stop right there at 64, 65. So, yeah, I'm very pleased with this. All right, guys, we've just got both bags done, both sides, truck's on, compressor switch is on. We're gonna go ahead and measure both sides of the truck, see where it sits wheel well height at, and then fill them up to 70, I think we'll do, and then remeasure. So let's take a look. So that side's 61 3/8 to the top of the bed rail on the bed cover. 61 3/8 as well. So let's go ahead and fill it up. What we're gonna do next, target pressure, send it all the way to 70, hit OK, hit pressure control. Okay, we are at 70 on the app. Shut off. Let's go ahead and hit pressure off. This will hold it. This will close the solenoid on the PCM module. Let's go remeasure. All right, we're at 61 3/8. We're at 64 1/4. Almost 3 inches. 64 1/4 as well. Go ahead and hit back the pressure control. Okay, we are there. What we can also do now is deflate all the way down to 0. I'm going to leave it at 10. And see how it is in the morning, make sure there's no leaks, but I'm going to keep it between 5 and 10 for general driving. So we're going to go ahead and bring this back down to 10 and see how long it takes to get there. Alright, and the app is vibrated on the phone. We're down at 10 to 11, there we go, 10 PSI. Go ahead and turn this off. Pressure off, solenoid's closed. It's going to stay at 10. Let's go ahead and recheck the height and see where it is. Alright, at 10 PSI, that is actually 3/4 inches of lift, 61 1/4 to 62. So we'll see how that rides. I might keep it at 5 or 10. We'll see how it feels. So, that is job done. Airbags, remember Firestone RideRite 2598 model for the Ram 2500, fully installed. If you enjoyed the video, liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on, and as always, stay tuned for more.